Who is deceiving these people? Like, who is, especially the white folks? Let me not even go and say Europeans. Who is deceiving them that they have culture and Black Americans don't have culture? You can imagine them opening their mouths with the guts, the effrontery, and every audacity for me, saying that if there is a time for Black Americans to go to their own side, Black Americans don't have anywhere to go to. I keep saying this over and over again, both to my Africans and every other person. Look at yourself very well first and be sure that you have a destination, that you have a culture. Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't see any culture they are practicing before you go around concluding for Black Americans. A lot of you guys have come up here from different countries of the world to say, oh, Black people do not have culture. But at the end of the day, you enjoy their music, you love to touch their afro, you love to parade them any single place you find them. Remove what is in your eyes before you look out for another person's own. I keep saying this. But I've seen it that the internet has made a lot of people have this freedom of comment, freedom of typing, freedom of videos. So at the end of the day, they don't calculate what they say before coming to say. I want you guys to actually watch this video. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sonia. If this is the first time tuning in, subscribe, like, comment, and share. Credits belongs to the original creator of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. With that being said, let's dive right into this video, and I'll be back with commentaries. Hey.
One of my favorite things about Europeans is how reliable they are in their hatred for others. I made a video talking about how a lot of right-wing Americans are now calling for everyone to go back to their countries of origin, except for them. And a Trump supporter with a pickup truck decided to comment that Europeans would actually be grateful for white Americans, whereas Africans would never accept African Americans. I'm sorry, what? And it's one of the most delusional takes because I've talked in length about how when I lived in Europe, I lived in 3 countries. And one of the things that shocked me the most initially when I went to Europe was how much vitriol Europeans had for Americans in general, including white Americans. They sort of see them as like those embarrassing cousins that they want nothing to do with because there's the knowledge that the United States is a European settler colony, but they have a great amount of disdain for what their cousins have turned into. And it was really interesting for me being there, hearing and witnessing it. Like, Europeans absolutely go in about how they think Americans are stupid. They're trashy, they're classless. They absolutely have no respect for certain elements of American culture and 100% believe that Americans are beneath them. Let's not lie now. And let's just say realistically this move did happen. That white Americans were accepted to go to Europe, replace all the immigrants that are there. Do you think they would be welcomed with open arms? They wouldn't. Because ask any American who has immigrated to Europe already. One of the most reoccurring posts in any expat group or Americans in Europe group I was ever in were American people having negative experiences with Europeans, couldn't find friends. If they didn't have money, they would struggle in finding a job. One of the biggest problems being their inability to speak the language of the country that they moved to. And the fact of the matter is that it doesn't matter if they're white or black. In fact, I think that I had an easier time making friends in Europe than many white American people that I know. And regarding Africans with African Americans, I have never had a negative experience with an African person. Whether I was in Europe, here in America, in Canada, and friends that I know who have traveled to Africa have had nothing but good things to say. I'm kind of tired of the projection that a lot of white people do with people of color, where their skewed ideas about the world actually has more relevance to them than it does to us.
I made a video asking Europeans to give me one singular European dish that can claim to be void of any African or Asian influences. In the same way Europeans say that nothing can be American because things were invented before America, in the same way that they say that hamburgers can't be American because the hamburger meat patty was invented in Germany, even though a meat patty and a hamburger are 2 separate things, but they claim that it can't be American because an ingredient of a hamburger was invented in another country. In the same way they say that American culture can't exist because American culture was influenced by other cultures, I'm asking Europeans to apply this logic to themselves. What European dish can claim to be completely void of African and Asian influences / culture? Anne says, steak and kidney pudding. And where were puddings invented? Matter of fact, how did people end up in Britain? Give me a singular British dish that can claim to be void of any cultures outside of that specific region, because obviously British culture did not exist forever, right? Go ahead.
Europeans are also losing their culture. And the funny thing is, a lot of these right-wing parties will tell them it's due to the inclusion of immigrants in their country, when actually their cultural erasure is wholly due to its embrace of capitalism. When people talk about American culture overtaking the world, they're more so referencing American values over culture, particularly this brand of hyper-individualism and consumerism. Whenever we talk about cultures being Americanized, this is what we're talking about. And a lot of people cannot connect the fact that them constantly working, not socializing or interacting with their neighbors or family or friends as often as they did prior, doing business in their second or third language, constantly being tired, and overconsuming are all elements that really make it difficult for people to sustain their cultural identities. In a capitalistic system, time is the ultimate commodity. But culture is not something that you can buy. It is something that you experience. It's something that you do. But how are we supposed to do culture if we're constantly working, if we don't have time? And due to this economic system that we're all forced to partake in, most of us don't actually have a choice. What's really interesting as well is that how this has spread throughout Europe, and it has already changed many cultures already. For example, I was speaking with a 60-year-old Spanish man one time, and we were talking about how the workforce in Spain has changed over the decades. And one of the most interesting things that he told me is that maybe 20, 30 years ago, he was able to come back home for lunch. In this time, he was able to go for a little walk and have lunch with his family. But it is no longer a reality. His lunch is now eaten at work. And a lot of you may see it as something small, but this is actually major, as we have seen the shift in values in a very small amount of time. Even looking at non-Anglophonic countries, every single person is learning English. And it's overwhelmingly to do business, for students to be able to survive in the job market. And in some cases, people are even more likely to speak English than their country's mother tongue or mother dialect. This is cultural erasure. And I have seen this very exact phenomenon happen in my own country. And it is one of the worst things that can possibly happen to us. Capitalism is not culture. It's actually the antithesis of culture in reinforcing and sustaining a very strong cultural identity. And having said that, it is no surprise that a lot of these white supremacist parties have overtaken Europe. Because the great majority of them, dare I say all of them, their ultimate goal is to make more money. And they make more money when their populace is afraid and their populace has a weak sense of identity, because it's easier to control and manipulate them. And this is why more than ever, we all have to reject capitalism.
I honestly can't get my head around all the Australians going to Europe at the moment, especially countries like Italy and Greece, and raving about how amazing the culture is. Like, what culture are you talking about? Is it the chain smoking? Is it the tax evasion? Is it doing 3 days of honest work a year and being constantly on strike? Or is it the heckling tourists to pay 20 euros to sit in a plastic deck chair on a rocky beach? What is the culture? I don't know.
This might get me in a little trouble, but am I the only one that thinks there's a difference between American white women and like European white women or women from other countries? Because someone commented on I was on a retreat with a bunch of different European women last week, and someone commented on this and they were like, Tan, don't ever trust white women. They're never your friend. I'm not coming for her because like I feel like she was saying that out of her own experiences, like genuinely just trying to warn me. Am I the only person that feels like when someone says white woman, I think American, like US, United States of America, redneck white woman? To me, those don't exist in my like day to day. Like in my head, those are NPC. In my head, those are the people I see at the supermarket, like with their kids or whatever, or at the mall. But like I don't see them as real people, because say white woman to me, I think Trump with blonde with a wig, honest. I feel like there's a drastic difference between US white women and European white women or Middle Eastern white women. Because you guys kind of like, I feel like people see a certain skin tone, automatically they think white, and I get why when they think white, they think the worst things ever, because please look at what's going on in the United States. Like personally, I don't think great things when I hear white women either. European white women, like, they're seasoned. They have culture, they have taste, they have fashion style. And they're also some of the most loyal people I've ever met. Like, I feel like European white women, you cannot group them in as white women. Like, I don't think that's fair. Because you could meet a German white woman, a Portuguese white woman, and a Grecian or whoever, a woman from Greece that's white. You're gonna have 3 different experiences culturally, 3 different experiences in the way they dress, 3 different experiences in the men that they date. I don't feel right grouping European white women or even like UK white women in the same group as US white women, because I just feel like white women born in the US, I know I get why you'd say that, but like European white women, I don't see it. Like, I feel like I genuinely, my brain doesn't group them in as one. Kind of like my best friend. If you look at her from afar, you're gonna be like, well, that's a white girl. She's not even white, she's Middle Eastern, and honestly, that girl has more culture than me. She's more well-traveled than me, smarter than I am. She's quite literally the kindest hearted person I've ever seen in my life. But if I saw someone post a video of her and then in the comments they were like, oh, don't trust white women, I would actually fight, because let's just make the distinction clear. Don't trust American white women, and not all of them. I'm not going for all of you, but like, I understand why you would like see an American white person and be like, yeah, no, it's not the same in Europe. I don't think it's the same in Europe. You guys tell me, but I don't think it's the same. Don't come for me.
Europeans telling white Americans that they have no connection to the country where their ancestors actually came from is the mentality of a colonizer, right? Because the only people who are indigenous to the Americas are indigenous Americans, and you're gonna tell a white person who naturally would not be in the Americas, they're there because of a colonial process, that you're not allowed back home, you're just an American. So they're encouraging colonization, right? So whenever I hear a European person say, oh, you're not actually this ethnicity, you have no connection to the culture, I'm just like, sir, you're a colonizer. And I care what a colonizer thinks.
Hi, my name's John. I'm American. Hi, John. I bet you're one of those Americans that consider themselves British. I'm American, but some of my ancestors were English. Primarily English. I think I have some Irish, but yeah. Yeah, you're American. That's it. You can stop there. Hi, I'm Samantha. I'm American. Yeah, but where are you really from? I'm from Ohio? No, like, where are you really from? What? Like, I can tell you're not you're not 100% American. Where are you from? The US? Ohio? What, do you want the city? No, like, you don't look American. Like, are you from, like, an Asian country? What I'm asking is, what's your ethnicity? Aren't you gonna deny my ethnicity like you denied John's over there? I'm so confused. Yeah, they are too, don't worry. Europeans are really so funny because they genuinely believe as though they're the only group of people on Earth who had created culture from nothing. They really think that they independently, separately created their cultures, as if their cultures weren't inspired by the cultures before them. And it's funny because they apply this logic for American culture. They say American culture can't exist because it was inspired by cultures before it, right? How jambalaya can't be American because it was inspired by African dishes and things like that. What European dish wasn't inspired by an Asian or an African dish? None. None. European cultures, every single European culture, did not exist in a bubble. There is no European culture that can say that their culture is unique and separately created in a bubble, in a vacuum. And because of that, their cultures were inspired by the people and the cultures before them. Like, Europeans are like, Americans don't have culture because all the culture came from European immigrants. First of all, that's not true. Second of all, you think Europe always had people living in it? Because that's not true. Europe wasn't always inhabited. People migrated to Europe. And lastly, just so you know, there's only one continent that can claim to have been always inhabited. Africa.
Now, I don't know where these people got the mentality of when it's time for every other person to go back to their country, to go back to their destination. Black Americans literally do not have where to go to. I don't know where that calculation is coming from, honestly. Because the only thing that every single person in America should be thinking right now is when it's time for everybody to go back to their destination, where are you going to? That is what you should be thinking, because Black Americans are not going anywhere. That is why you always hear them, or you hear people calling them foundational Black Americans. It was not just stated because it was stated. It was stated because it is what it is. Check out all your presidents. Go and look out for their old videos and play their old videos, including the Orange Man right now. He also made the statement that Black Americans are not going anywhere because they built this country. They built it with their sweat and everything. Now, secondly, I don't know why people have this, should I call it, mentality that Africans and Black Americans hate each other so much, especially white folks. I don't know where they are getting that illustration for. Now, let me put it out clear to you. Africans and Black Americans might have their difference. They might have issues. They might have misunderstanding. But one thing and one fact still remains, that Africans and Black Americans are still one. An African person or a Black American person, we still choose 100 times to choose a fellow Black American person or a fellow Black person than choosing a white folks as a whole. And that is why you see that 90% to 99% of Black folks, no matter how hard it is, they prefer to marry themselves. They prefer to marry black than to go marry white. I'm not saying that they are not Black people that are. They are, yeah, for sure, but it is just 1%. So now, when you are talking about where will Black Americans go to, Black Americans hate each other, Black Americans community is scattered, Black Americans this, Black Americans that, remember that you do not have a roof over your head. You know, that was the stage where Somalian were when they thought that the city of Minnesota was totally theirs, until the orange man that they actually voted for now came and showed them that, sorry, this place is not yours. In fact, he literally called them garbage. You get what I'm trying to say? So it is the same thing that might happen to some of these Europeans, that's white Europeans, that cannot literally close their mouths. And I don't know why they're having this illusion or mentality that every single Europeans are white. Please go do your research. Go do your research very well, so that you can be very sure that every single Europeans are white. I don't think it's like that. And that is why I feel like it is only few of these white folks that really understand what life is. And it is only few of them that really understand that this place they are, it is not their property. It is actually a stolen land. It is only few of them that understand that give honor to whom honor is due. We don't need to come and sugarcoat it. We don't own here. It is not our place, whether you like it or not. And to those ones that really understand, kudos to them. But to those ones that still have that illusion, that are still killing themselves, saying that Black people are not united, Black people do not know where to go, Black people do not have culture, I wonder what you have been enjoying. I wonder what you have been eating. I wonder what you have been wearing. Because at the end of the day, these people are desperately in need of every single thing that we, the Black folks, own. But they can't hit up their chests, own up to it, and come to tell us one on one. But anyways, who am I to judge them? Everybody understands things differently. Credit belongs to the original creator of every single clips and stitches I have in today's episode. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Do what? Subscribe, like this video, drop me your comments, and lastly, do not forget to share for every other person to get this good news. And yes, guys, thank you so much for staying stick and hook me to the end of this video. With that being said, with no further ado, I do like I always say in my videos, I'm going to be saying bye, and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys. I love you guys. Mwah. Stay tuned.